IVM.
Hi, everybody. Just wanted to ask everyone for a quick favor. We're running a brand survey right now and would really appreciate it if you could let us know what you think about the advertising on IVM. Go to ivmpodcast.com/survey and do let us know. As part of this, we'll be selecting 10 random participants and sending them some IVM swag, so do fill out those surveys.
Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach podcast. I am Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach. And today we're going to have a very interesting discussion on a topic that I'm extremely passionate about. As some of you know, I come from an entrepreneurship background where my parents are both people who are entrepreneurs. They started a company, and that has been my ethos, that has been in my genes, and that has been how I've been raised. Nowadays, especially during the last 2 years, something interesting has happened. Many people have started becoming entrepreneurs out of being forced into it. Or suddenly they started doing things that the passion projects suddenly turned into money making things. And it's a very interesting time because we've seen businesses go through troubled times. We've seen businesses do well during this time. And we've seen new people come in to starting businesses. And through this, a very close business partner, a person who is a guide for me, came out with a book called Business Champ. And I thought this was a perfect, timing for all of this to get together. And I said, as soon as read the book and I got it in my hands, I said that I have to have him on the podcast to discuss his philosophies with us. At a business level, he's our chartered accountant in our company, Ormax. And we've had lots of personal discussions about philosophies of life. And I love the way that he approaches these things. So let me introduce you to Malay Damania, who's been one of my guides in the world of business as well. So Malay, welcome to the Habit Coach podcast.
Thank you so much, Ashdin. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you and your viewers. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Malay. Malay, tell us a little bit about yourself. Just introduce yourself to the listeners.
Okay, so I am, as Ashdin said, Malay Damania. I'm a chartered accountant by profession. I am the first generation entrepreneur. And I'm running a chartered accountancy firm for last 3 decades. We are a team of about 70 people operating from Mumbai and Pune. So yeah, as Ashdin was saying, I have been fortunate to interact with so many entrepreneurs in my journey of 30 years. And being a chartered accountant, I have closely, watched them in action. Many of them, flourished. They did very well. Some of them also failed in the business, and a lot of people actually, what Ashdin I saw is that they took off in the initial stage, but after reaching to a certain level, they sort of stagnated, and that's where I thought in this pandemic to pen down some of my experiences and insights over these years, and probably that could help them. Navigating through their journey of fulfilling their financial dreams.
This is such an interesting topic. And before we jump into, the points that you've highlighted for us to discuss today, I wanted to understand, what does business mean to you? Do you think everybody should start a business?
Well, so my thought is that, if you're asking whether one should get into a business or they should stick to a job, but to be very honest, I would not give straight answer because there is not a clear-cut answer, because everybody comes with different background, different culture, different belief systems, and their priorities in life are different. Their approach to life is different. So I don't think there is an answer like it should be business or it should be job. But if you ask my opinion, my personal opinion, I would give business as the first preference. First choice. By default, one should definitely look at getting into business as a first choice. The reasons are, you see, in business, you have unlimited potential. In jobs, I'm not undermining job at all. So let's not get into that. But I feel that business has unlimited potential. Jobs, most of the time in job, you trade your time for money. Whereas in business, you have ample scope to grow. In business, you have a lot of freedom, to so to say, because we all seek freedom end of the day. And in business, you have that freedom you have also an opportunity to express yourself more freely, to create something, to innovate something, and you are able to express yourself more in a more in a magnanimous way, which I think is very important for being in a business. You have also an opportunity to make a difference in so many people's lives. You have your employees, you have your vendors, you have consultants, and there is an entire ecosystem that you build around your business. And when you do business, obviously there is an economic activities, so many activities, and so many people start depending, not fully, but they start depending on you for their own progress. And so you actually get an opportunity to impact so many lives. So considering all these aspects, I think business is important, because Ashwin, I strongly believe that end of the day, again, I mean, a little philosophical, but end of the day, it's not what you get, but also what you become. That's very important. And in business, there is more possibility of an all-round growth of your personality. You become good at multiple facets of life. You are able to solve problems and in a much better manner.
Correct.
Having said that, I would like to add here, but again, that it's not that business is good, so everybody should do business, because I would like to say that business is a difficult game. It is not easy. It's not that I decide to start business and I start getting into business and I will be successful. Because if you see, the statistics for businesses are very poor. I was going through one of the statistics from US. In the US there was a study, and they said that 20% of the business closed down in the first year itself. By the end of 5 years, 50% of the business have failed, and in 10 years, only 1/3 have survived. And mind well, we are only talking of survival. We are not talking of thriving of businesses, right? So the statistics are pretty poor, and that's not something which we would like as a businessman. Being a difficult game, I strongly believe that one should approach the business in a more systematic manner. They have to understand the nuances of the business, understand the rules of the game, the principles of it, and then get your acquire skills of how to approach the business. That's very important. And once you do that, then you get into a business. I think then you are increasing your probability of success, and also making a more impact, as we discuss in so many people's life, and making it firstly fulfilling your own financial dreams. So I would go for business to answer your question, but with a rider that you must first get skillful at how to run the business, rather than sticking to your own technical skills of your business. Also, there is a whole lot of how will you use the technical skill and build a business around your technical skill.
You said so many very, very valuable things here. And I wanted to just add my 2 cents to this. The first thing is what you said, that businesses are limitless. And I love that idea, because typically the only other job that is limitless is a sales job, where you're paid for the amount of sales that you can make, and you are on an incentive scheme. Most others are, again, like you said, trading for time. Correct? As a result, your time is finite, hence your money that you're going to earn is finite. So that is one very, very important one. A second thing that I love, and this is me talking as Ashton, right? I love as a business is the fact that it comes from nothing. It is magically created from nothing. There was thin air earlier, and now suddenly there's a business, right? A person who starts selling, bread from home, there was nothing at that point of time, and then suddenly now there's a business that's earning money. How did that happen? And I find that the most magical part of businesses. And like you said, that all businesses, you need to understand the rules of business. Correct? It is not that I used to be good at cooking so that I can start a business. That is not how it works. Skill is one thing, but understanding business as a mindset is another. And just to wrap around the last part that you said about the failure rates in businesses, that is the absolute brilliant thing about businesses, because what it does is it teaches you failure. And if you're not comfortable with failure, then you should never be starting a business, because definitely you're going to have lots of these kind of failures. And a friend of mine once asked me, saying that, why are you doing so many things? I was saying that, listen, if there's a 50% success rate, the more things you do, more successful you might end up being. No, you need one hit,
Absolutely.
2 hit, 3 hits. Chalo, do 15 things and let's see what sticks. So I think there is one shotgun approach to it. There is also a sniper approach where you said, no, I'll put all my eggs in one basket and then I'll push it till the end and see what happens. So I think there are many different approaches to the way that you can also be running businesses. So I love this discussion.
Right.
Malay, you've wanted to share a few thoughts with us, and I'd asked you to put down, some of the principles that either you've outlined in the book or some of the principles that you've learned from interacting with all these entrepreneurs. What is your first one?
Yeah. So there are a lot of points that what I have learned and I have got insights interacting with people. I have put it down in my book, Business Champ. And so I have actually, so there are 3 sections. One, the mindset of a businessman. Second one is you have to lay a strong foundation for your business. And obviously the third one is getting into action. Because end of the day, it is the action which is going to make a difference in whatever you're doing. Let me start, Ashdin, with the last action point, which is very close to my heart. And this
Please.
is very, 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 very important and a sort of neglected concept, but very, very important. And it's very close to my heart, as I said. And that point, Ashdin, is accountability, right? I have seen, and I'm talking of smaller businesses, right? It's small, medium businesses. We are not talking of corporates. We are talking of small businesses and accountability. So if you look at any business owner, what happens? I mean, he has his team, people to work for him. Typically, what he will do, he will give tasks for them to, do. Regularly, he will take updates from them. He will take review. He will take reporting. And if something is not done, he will take them to task, and he may also fire them also, that's so all his people are accountable to him. Now, the biggest question is who the business owner is accountable to, and this is where the crux of, the whole accountability concept comes in, that most of the cases, the small business owner is not accountable to anyone. And we know that human beings, as we human beings, we work well under observation. If I am running a business, I'm not accountable to anyone, then I'm not going to perform at my optimal best, and we are talking of not 1 day or 2 days. We are talking of a continuous process. Continually, I'm not going to be inspired or motivated for a long time to give my best unless and until I have an accountability partner, so to say, So what is the concept? So this is what I have, entire chapter I have put on this. And I think this is if the small business people, if they adopt this concept, it can become a game changer for all the businesses. Why? Because for a smaller business, the owner is the biggest asset for the company. And just imagine if the biggest asset is not put to use at his optimal best, what result can you expect from the company? I mean, you may get success, but you will not get the best result that you are capable of achieving. So I would go with an accountability partner who is not necessarily from your business, but who is somebody who is an outsider, And I have a whole lot of actually who should be your partner, who should not be your partner, and how you should approach this accountability partner concept practically in your business. That is what I have put in the big book. And if you permit, I can just share a few points from there. So never have accountability partner from within your family, within your close friends, with whom you are emotionally very much attached, with whom you have a lot of personal stuff to share, because then that thing will not come, that they will not be able to push you. Never have an accountability partner who is perpetually a pessimist or a negative thinker, because then that will not give you enough motivation to thrive in your business. Also, don't go for somebody who is very busy. I mean, I have somebody, but he's very busy. He's not able to give me time. So, I mean, what's the point of having such partner? So, I would not go for this partner. But whom will I go to? I will go to somebody who is with whom I'm able to share myself freely, and there can be a free, honest, and frank discussion. Whom I trust, whom I somebody who is. So I would say that somebody who is not scared of you, but care enough of you to tell you the truth. Now he may or may not be right. I mean, we are not getting into that, but somebody who calls spade a spade, right? Mm-hmm. So you can frankly discuss with him, and with the discussion, he can ask you questions. You have to give him freedom to ask you questions, freedom to challenge your conclusions, right? So there is a very principle to principle basis kind of conversation, very frank and honest conversation, wherein you become accountable to him for the actions that you will decide what you will take in the next week or month or maybe a year. Now, ideally, what should be the approach? How we should go about? Let's say you have an account. Let's say you and me are accountable partner. You are my accountable partner, right? Now we decide the rule of the game, that every Thursday, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we will spend 15 minutes. So I don't want you to spend more than 15 minutes on my business, right? Because you have your own stuff to do. Now we have a very honest and frank discussion on this, and you won't mind saying what you think is right, without sugarcoating your whatever you are saying. So on a Thursday, I will say that, okay, by next Thursday, in 1 week, what are my actionable items? All right. So I will tell you that, these are 1, 2, 3 things I'm going to do. And you said, all right, these are 3 things that you do. And this is going to help you in advancing towards your, larger goals, annual goals, or your vision or something. It will help you advance towards that. All right. Come next Thursday, you are only going to ask me, Malay, what happened to these 3 points? Just tell me, give me an update on these 3 points. Now, if I know that next Thursday, Ashdin is going to ask me about these 3 points, do you think that I'm going to procrastinate on those 3 points? I'm going to, keep those 3 points aside. I know that he's going to ask me, and therefore it will be there on the top of my mind. I know that he's going to ask me for my good, and therefore I have to take some action on it, right? So correct. I'm more propelled to take action on those points, and if it is not done, I should have a valid justification for not having done it. I may not achieve the results. I would not give too much emphasis on the result, but the actions. I think if I get into the action because I know that somebody is going to ask me a question, I think that will become a game changer for a smaller businessman, as opposed to nobody is going to ask me, and I don't even know that, I'm not performing at my optimal. That is another point. I think that I'm giving my best. I think that, I'm doing everything that I could possibly do. But my mind works very differently when I know that somebody is going to ask me, somebody is going to challenge me, as opposed to nobody is going to ask me. So that's an accountability point, which is, I thought, extremely important, not given due importance in our business culture, but I think everybody should take a look at it and explore this concept in their business.
This is so important, because even when we talk about habits, we talk about accountability partners. So you said it perfectly on the right podcast, because when we talk about habits, accountability partners become something so important, right? Because they keep you honest. They say that, did you really do it, or were you lying? Did you really actually do it? Because that's how you actually get that momentum going as well for whatever it is that you're doing. We're going to take a quick break. See you on the other side.
Hey, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Cyrus Says, Priya Mirza, host of our new podcast, The Longest Constitution, talks to Cyrus about her show and her podcasting experience. The importance of investing in a good night's sleep is highlighted by founder and CEO of Sleepy Cat, Kabir Siddique, on Advertising is Dead with Varun. On The Wire Talks, Siddharth talks about the horrendous capture of Kabul by the Taliban with the author and journalist Taran Khan. Co-founders of the Goa Rainbow Trust, Francis and Chris Fernandez, joined Farhad and Sunetra on GabyCD. Witness the epic battles between detergent brands HUL and Nirma, as narrated by Anupam and Ambi on The Last Brand Standing. Do follow us on social media. We are IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you enjoyed this show or any of our shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Word of mouth is the best way to spread the word about a podcast. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors on the network this week: Ciet Cred, Bank of Baroda, Quarter, CoinSwitch, Kuber, and Intuit India. We really do appreciate the support. You are what makes this possible.
Welcome back. Let's jump into the conversation. I had two thoughts when I was listening to what you were saying. One is that should a person, even starting a small business right now, you're making theplas at home, for example, even that small, should your person start by creating a board? Like how you would have a board of directors on a private limited company, where you have external people who have done different things, who bring different things to the table. Imagine if you just start a small, tiny business and you say 4 friends who are in different businesses, you come be part of my board, we'll meet every 3 months. Right? Let me learn from you all. Do you think it's something that is valid as an idea, or is it something that is too premature?
It is a brilliant idea. It's a brilliant idea, I would say that. Nothing is premature. I mean, end of the day, you are into business. And this, again, very valid point you raised. Independent directors. The concept is accountability. If you dive deep into it, it is an accountability, because all the active directors are accountable to the independent directors, who are going to ask them, what have you done in last 3 months and what are you going to do in next 3 months? And then next 3 months, again, the same thing will follow. So even a smaller businessman, like as you said, even making a thepla in the house, you don't need a kind of a director and all, those words sound very heavy, but have somebody who's your accountability partner. Yes, I think it's because accountability partner make you do something which you don't want to do, but you need to do.
Absolutely. That's the thing. Because all the things that you want to do, you'll do in any case.
You'll do
right? We always stick to the easy things, but the easy things are not necessarily the things that give you that big growth that you're looking for. Or it's the harder things that you're not looking at. Because eventually, there's a very nice phrase, right? Success comes to those who are willing to do the things that others are not willing to do. Correct? Others are not willing to do hard things. If you can do hard things, success comes to you.
Absolutely.
Right. So I think that is a brilliant way of thinking about accountability partners, forcing you to do the little hard things that are needed. Lovely, Malay. I love the idea of accountability partner. What's next?
Yes. Next is, again, I'm a finance guy, Esdin. End of the day, I'm going to talk something about numbers.
Has to happen.
So how are you measuring your progress? This is very important. How the quantification of your progress is how frequently you are looking at your numbers, because I believe that numbers is all about, end of the day, you do all the activities, but the numbers are reflection of your activity. It's a mirror. We can do 100 things, but end of the day, the numbers will show you how much is your sale, how much is your profit, how much is your margin, and all the stuff. How frequently you are keeping a scoreboard of your business. I think that is another important aspect. Many times we feel that my business is small, so what is the point? Why do I need? I have everything on the back of my mind, but I would always encourage and I will insist people to have the numbers. Like once, I was having conversation with my client a long back, and I said, well, okay, so what are the numbers? And he started saying something from the top of his mind. And I said, but you got to have some sort of report, right? And he said, no, I have everything on the back of my mind. And but how do you look at your numbers? I look at it at the year end when my CA will come and do all the numbers and all. And this is typically how we do it. But I think regularly keeping track of your numbers by way of what we call an MIS report. These are all jargons that they're not even jargons, they're very simple terms, but we feel that they are jargons, but they are very, very important. Because, you have your goal and you got to know where have you reached in accomplishing your goals, what is remaining, so that, you can always adjust your actions, or you can get inspired by, okay, this much is already done, now only this much is remaining. And so I've given an example. See, we all play games and all. Now just imagine you are playing a football game or a cricket game, and you don't have a scoreboard. Everybody remembers the score in their mind. I mean, who is going to watch the game? And forget about the watching, who's going to get inspired even to play the game, So you need a scoreboard, and people play differently when they see a scoreboard. When they see a scoreboard, they will, their body language, their way of playing is different. So I think keeping track of the numbers is something which every business should do. Again, I'm saying small or big, keeping track of numbers. Now, number, I don't mean, roj every day jaake you check the numbers. No, at least have a reasonable frequency of 15 days, 1 week, 15 days, or 1 month, depending on the sector and stage of your business. Take a look at your numbers, and then you'll be able to inspire your team also to, where you are. And I have actually, just to put my point across clearly, there is an anecdote which I have mentioned in the book. I'll very quickly would like to narrate it. So there is a lady, Florence Chadwick. She decided to swim between California and Catalina Island, which is a 26-mile swim, right? And she started swimming, and there was a rescue team along with her, just to keep track of whether there are sharks or there are some difficulties for her, so she can get back to the rescue boat. So she swam, and 15 hours into her swim, and there were thick clouds and fog, and they began to set in, and then she was not able to see things ahead. So finally, she still continued for a while, and then she signaled to the rescue boat that, now I'm done. And okay, fine. So rescue team, they got to her, and she sat in the rescue boat. She sat in the rescue boat, and she realized that she was just 1 mile away from the coast.
Wow.
No, she was just 1 mile away. What happened is she was not aware that she was because there was a fog and she was not able to see. I mean, do you think that, if she knew that it is just a mile away, she would have quit? Obviously, the answer is so. When you have the scoreboard, when you know your numbers, then your approach to the business will change. Even if you're falling behind, then how to step up, what sort of corrective actions that you need to take to catch up for the lost ground. And I think numbers are very important.
I think there are 2 points that I wanted to ask you on this. One is that, do they necessarily have to be financial numbers that you track, or can they be other kinds of numbers?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's one point. So what are your thoughts on this?
Brilliant question. And actually, I wanted to come on that. 2 kind of numbers. One is a financial number, which will reflect your past. What have you done in the last month, last quarter? When you have the number for this month, what you can do is you can compare it with your last year, same period, last month. You can do some ratios, so how where are you heading towards as compared to the last year, whether you are more efficient than the last year, etc. So there is one bunch of financial numbers we are talking about. There is a second set of numbers which we call lead indicators. Again, very, very important. I mean, lead indicators like how many inquiries you generated, how many proposals you sent, right? How many new clients are there in the pipeline? What sort of marketing activity you are doing? We all call about that marketing, the funnel, sales funnel. So one is the financial number, and 2 is all the lead indicators. And these lead indicators will give you a hint or a estimation about the business that you are going to do going forward. Then you'll be able to estimate your budget, your, how are you forecast, etc. for your business going forward. So I think both the numbers are very, very important. Very right question. On one side, you have a financial numbers. On the other side, you have the lead indicators, which will be linked more towards your marketing and sales activity. We can also have numbers about your, sales, like the complaints that you receive from your customers, right? You run a restaurant, you run any hospitality industry. These are very, very important indicators and parameters. Look at what are the complaints
rejections, returns.
Rejection, absolutely. Warranties. So you decide what numbers. Financial number is one, lead indicators, and then the other numbers that are relevant and important in your business, which will be very important for you to take a lot of business decisions going forward.
Correct, absolutely. And that this is The way that I see this, in fact, is actually like a habit. And the reason why I say this is that having your awareness about what your numbers is a important habit to have. Like you said, like my finance consultant, Kamlesh said this to me once when we were in our meeting. He said that accounting and all the numbers that are there in the accounts books are all about the past, right? That's it. They're only going to tell you about the past. All these other numbers are going to be your future predictors, right? And as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you need to start looking at your future predictors, because the past is past, is gone. Nothing you can do is going to get it back. But what you can do and handle is only the stuff that's coming in the future. So only if you have this one eye on your bank account, not going to work. If you only have one eye on how much money you made last month, not going to work. What you said, are my sales coming in? Am I approaching enough people? Is there growth taking place in those numbers? That is important. And they're beautiful concepts like going for no. That means approach more people than you did last year. Approach more people than you did last month, right? So those are interesting principles.
Absolutely.
And as a habit, I knew this from one of our family friends who's a very, very large industrialist. And he would come to office, he would have his meetings, he would come to office only for 4 hours a day, right? He would have all his meetings. In the evening, at the end of the working day, he got one folder with one sheet of paper in it that had one number on it, which was sales of that day. Bas. Correct? Every single day, he got that one number that he tracked. That was for him the thing that he had to track. And there was one, like you said, one goal setting. So I think whether we are entrepreneurs, business owners, or even whether we are family members, people who are just getting out of college, having a number that you can track gives your life a certain direction, right? Maybe some of you are starting to become social media influencers. You still have a number right there that you can track. What is it that you're going to be tracking and following? Extremely important. Malay, I love this point.
Absolutely. And if you have to compare it with let's say a doctor, I mean, you are sick and you go to a doctor, the question is doctor going to start your treatment straight away? Unless it is, a regular fever and all. What he's going to say is, Ashdin, let's do a X-ray. Let's do a blood report. Let's get your numbers. Right?
Correct.
He's going to compare it with the range that is, scientifically accepted range. Only after looking at the numbers, he's going to start the treatment.
Correct.
So again, everywhere the numbers are important, and you have to compare those numbers with certain other parameters that you set for your business. Then you can then you can decide your treatment. You can decide your further course of action.
Correct. Malay, one more important thing is that people keep messaging and saying that whenever we talk about numbers and stuff like that, and people say that no, listen, I can't do numbers. Yeah, I'm scared of them. Every time I see numbers on Excel sheets, only give me like goosebumps, and I can't even think about doing it. Like for people like you, it comes naturally, right? Yeah. For others, you have to learn about it. But the thing is that don't look at numbers the way that you saw numbers when you studied it in school. Correct? There's not an exam. What is that number representing? Correct. That is what you need to be thinking about it. Your relationship with numbers has to change, because it's not that I can't read numbers. I can't deal with it. But what is your relationship? What is the past baggage that you're carrying, which is why you're having this kind of a reaction to it? Do you also have clients who've come and told you that, Arey, Malay, I don't want to think about numbers. You think about the numbers for me.
No. So they just say that, they have the numbers at the back of their mind. I mean, I'm saying go a step forward and put them down on paper. Because then you understand the numbers more clearly and in a much better manner. So you exactly know what's there. And for the numbers, it's just a measurement of what are your actions, what actions you have already taken. It's a measurement of that. And you can't improve something which you can't measure. Even if you are improving, you won't know otherwise.
Yeah.
So you have to track your numbers. Only then you can improve your numbers. So to improve your numbers, it's important to have the measurement of your numbers first.
And to take this into your personal life as well, people say improve my relationship with my wife. Acha, what does that mean? Improve relationship with wife, matlab kya? Like I said, that how are you going to see if it has improved or not? At least put saying that chalo, we'll go out for 2 lunches or a date, right? Say that we will do these 3 things. We will do that. We will do this. And so at least you put some numbers to it, saying that, acha, now we will reduce the number of fights we have from 4 to 2. So at least there's something that you can do that is
yes.
measurable, that you know that the improvement is taking place. So I think numbers, even outside the business world, makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. You look at now, you can expand your horizon to look at various other areas of life, and probably will figure out, numbers are everywhere.
Exactly. There you go. You have to make numbers fun. That's the important thing with numbers.
Absolutely.
Malay, how can people get in touch with you and follow you and find out more about your book and what you do?
So book is of course available on Amazon. If they want to get in touch with me, I have my email IDs, my Insta account, LinkedIn account, Malay Damania. My email ID
MALAY
MALAY. Sorry, so what you're asking my email ID?
No. So how can people get in touch with you? Instagram, what was your Instagram ID?
Malay Damania. MALAY DAMANIA.
Perfect.
Instagram,
and we'll be linking it in the podcast links as well. Super.
Sure.
Lovely. Thank you, Malay.
Thank you, Ashdin. Thank you so much. It was wonderful speaking to you. Thank you.
My pleasure. If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, I am Ashdin Doc on Twitter and Instagram. You can find lots more information on my website, awesome180.com, or check out different content on my YouTube channel called AWESOME180. That's Awesome 180.
A wise man once said, traveling, it makes you speechless, then turns you into a storyteller.
Well, listen to such travel stories and experiences exploring India on the Musafir Stories with us, Saif and Faiza.
Catch us on the IVM website, app, or wherever you get your podcasts from.
पेश खिदमत है आपकी शान में हमारे अंजुमन से. Hi, I am Sadaf.
And I'm Arshit. खाने का इतिहास, economics, policy, psychology, सब है मेन्यू पे.
Only on the Nankali podcast every Wednesday, सिर्फ IVM podcast app या वेबसाइट पर, या फिर जहां से भी आप अपने पॉडकास्ट सुनते हो.